Video. What's that?
Hello. Help, please.
Well, I mean, they're related.
It's like it really looks like the.
I don't think it's very Shelley.
Wait, what?
I had a copy of Frankenstein and on the back it had a picture of the author.
I'll go back and
I'm
verify,
pretty
but
sure
I'm pretty
that's
sure
what
that's
it
her. I mean, I got that. I'm pretty sure it's her.
is. I mean, maybe they just look really similar.
Wollstonecraft. That's the mom. I mean, like, don't you look at your mom? Probably.
No, I don't. Actually, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I'm like.
Yes, you do.
All right. All right. Women on the Enlightenment. All right. Since the Renaissance, there have been what's called a querying. I don't have it on the board. Hang on. I'm gonna come back to this idea in the next unit too. There's been this debate of this concept going on since the Renaissance called the
Querelle de Dames.
Querelle de Dames.
Fight of the ladies.
Or, yeah, apply to ladies, or basically it's a debate over what is the proper role of women in society. And this is a phrase in your key concepts. What's that?
Can you say that with your best French accent?
Querelle de Dames.
De Dames.
Thank you.
Some philosophes champion greater rights for women, and they wanted their education to be expanded, especially within Enlightenment, because we talked about how, like, a lot of the women were excluded from Enlightenment type and scientific-based education, and just education in general. Yeah. Yeah, I'll put that down. But make sure you have that phrase written down because it is a phrase that shows up in concepts. But we're going to come back to it again in Unit 6 later on. Anyway, so there was, because basically some Enlightenment thinkers thought how you treat all people and races and sects reflects better on you as a society. So if you're an advanced society and you treat your women better and actually give them more, I would say equality, but more equality, then it reflects better on you as a developed civilization. In Montesquieu's Persian letters, he criticizes the oppression of women as a symbol of tyranny. So Montesquieu is one of the Enlightenment thinkers who's out there talking about how women should have greater rights and abilities. All right, so the first guy is Marquis de Condorcet. This guy right here. Marquis de Condorcet. He was a mathematician and writer in the Encyclopedia. He wrote in the 1780s that women should have equal rights to men, in an extremely rare position at the time. So the 1780s, he's one of the rare, especially males, out there saying that not only should women have greater rights, but they should be equal. Because like a lot of Enlightenment thinkers, while they might think that women should have better rights, they're not necessarily pushing for pure equality. But this guy's like, yeah, they should be equal to men, which was extremely rare in the 1780s. Most philosophers believe that women were physically and intellectually inferior to men. So most philosophers believe that women were physically and intellectually inferior to men. Which, yeah, if you borrow them from school, then yeah, they're probably not going to be as capable as you are, right?
But did they ever know Elizabeth? She was a genius.
I don't know if she's a genius,
like,
but she's also like, I guess the idea is that people like that are like super prepared because of their fight their entire lives, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how you justify these things.
God bless her for the brain of the man. She was finally
Exactly. There you go. So a lot of so people would want some moderate reform, but very few were calling for like extreme equality. Then you look at women writers. So there are some women writers at the time who are also championing some of these rights and causes. Women added crucial concerns for women's rights in the time. So in 1694, you have Mary Estelle. 1694, you have Mary Estelle, who published a book which encouraged women to aspire to the life of the mind. So her book encourages women to aspire to the life of the mind and proposed the creation of a women's college. So Mary Estelle published a book which encouraged women to aspire to the life of the mind, like basically you should have a yearning for education, right? You should have a yearning to like improve yourself or enlighten yourself. And she proposed the creation of a women's college. Mary Estelle also criticized marriage like an absolute monarchy. So she also compared marriage to being like an absolute monarchy, where the male has all, what's that?
Period.
Where the male had all the authority and power, because back then, in terms of legality, that's very true. Like the male had all this power and authority. Men could literally beat their wives and not be punished for it because it was seen as like a way of like the male keeping the inferior female in line, right?
That's not good.
So she criticized marriage, but she was also careful to acknowledge ladies' God-given duties, like that women have certain roles. So she's, hey, look, it's something. Should we have what you got, right? People weren't woke back then.
Just settle
Yes.
for
Take what you can get, right?
I like how
Yes.
it matters that you don't have rights.
1694. The explosion of print literature in the 1700s brought in more women perspectives. So that's another effect. That's another effect this time period too. And we're going to get some more of this later in this unit. That there's an explosion of print literature that takes place in the 1700s because of the Enlightenment, and that gives more opportunities for women to read. So if you have things like, women to write and read. If you have all these encouragement in the Enlightenment of more thinking and more writing, it just creates a wider array of all this, right? It's kind of like superheroes, right? All of a sudden, superhero movies became a big thing, so there's just a lot of it now, right? So there's bound to be a few women in there too, right? So it's beneficial. The Enlightenment and all this publication is taking place, that now it gives more opportunities for women to write and publish. So women will make up about 15% of novels and writing in the 1700s as a result of all this. Then you also have the salons. Salons, in a lot of cases, are also run by what?
Women.
Women. Women were way more active in these informal meetings promoting Enlightenment thinking. So women were much more active in coordinating and developing these informal meetings of Enlightenment thinking. And the salon hostesses, most of the time upper class women, were very key to this. So basically, if women didn't hold these salons, these Enlightenment ideas would not spread. They were weekly meetings held in wealthy households, which would bring in different types of people. Bring in writers, financiers, aristocrats, foreigners. They would have a meal and have all their discussions. So it wasn't just all Enlightenment, but they would share anything about what they learned about the world, their experiences, literature, science, philosophy. What's TED Talk? Oh, they were TED Talks. Yeah, sure, TED Talks. So they would discuss literature, science, philosophy, whatever. One of the most famous salons was run by this lady named Madame de Dauphin. This lady right here. Madame de Dauphin ran one of the most famous salons of Paris.
That dress? That kind of
Okay.
No, but look at her. She's like,
Her guests included Montesquieu, Delabert, the guy one of the guys, the writers of the Encyclopedia. The other guy who's not Diderot, D'Alembert, and also an old American favorite, your friend,
If you say Thomas Jefferson,
Not Thomas
he's
Jefferson.
my friend.
Ben Franklin.
what?
So Benjamin Franklin was also a guest of hers. And
Before or after the electricity?
probably after. And maybe before too. But Ben Franklin was like America's closest thing to like an Enlightenment thinker at the time in America.
Well, what about the
And-
life of
Probably, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, yes.
You just went to France to show off this.
Um,
Advertising. Hey, look,
It's advertising.
but Ben Franklin, yeah. Hey guys. Well, I got you here talking about Enlightenment. Think about poet titles.
Yeah, how does this still be blind? I don't have to deal with
You
that.
all have a trouble
What's that
seeing.
problem?
So being invited to a salon could also make careers. Like that's how Rousseau became Rousseau. Rousseau starts off very low income and like very average guy. And because he works his way into salons, he becomes Rousseau, like where he's well known. So he can actually make careers. And elites enjoy being exposed to different types of artists, writers, and culture. They probably thought it was cute, right? This little poor, penniless artist coming in here, showing me your artwork, right? Your writings.
He's all nervous. Like, touch your wee little forehead. Messed up thing.
So that is salons. Then you get to this next art period in the mid-1700s, which is Rococo. So we're moving to our next art period in the mid-1700s, which is Rococo.
I feel like it should be said.
Elite women also influence art. Elite women also influence art as well. Rococo was a dominant art form between 1720 and 1780. And where was the cultural and art hotspot of Europe in the 1700s? France. Yeah, Paris. So France is going back to like Louis the 14th's time in the mid 1600s. France is still like the cultural mecca of Europe at this point, where all culture and art is still very much being dominated by French influence. So Rococo comes out of France, is very much dominated by France. Louis XV and his mistress were big promoters of Rococo, as well as his son, Louis XVI. So Louis XV and Louis XVI were all big promoters of Rococo art style in this time period. A lot of soft pastels, ornate interiors. Here's some pictures. Soft pastels, ornate interiors, sentimental portraits. So soft pastels, ornate interiors, sentimental portraits, and starry-eyed lovers and cupids. A lot of mythical, like unrealistic things happening. Like you look at all these pictures, there's always like little cupid or like little like up here. You see like little cupids running around. You see a lot in the architecture and artwork too.
So did this like influence the Romantic period?
It's kind of leading towards the Romantic period at this point. Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing from when she was.
Oh yeah.
The mistress of Louis XV, Madame de Pompadour, was one of those famous. She was, even though she was his mistress, she was well known and also very influential in the French court in the 1700s. But she was also a big time promoter and buyer of Rococo art and architecture type styles. She made the style very popular. So Madame de Pompadour, the mistress of Louis XV, was a big promoter of this style. I don't know. Something like this? Is this anybody's taste?
That's so pretty. That building is gorgeous.
Frederick the Great's palace.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. That's the same time frame. Anybody else?
I like the three balconies.
Okay.
I don't know, they look nice.
So you're not realist people, and you're not like, let's go paint a field.
No.
Let's
No.
go.
That's so pretty. Like I like the colors.
I'm waiting for the impressionists.
You gotta wait a little bit longer. It's probably like closer to March. Great impressionists. All right. Rousseau's controversial arguments. So here's the bad stuff on Rousseau. Rousseau, to him, women and men were radically different by nature and should serve in different lifestyles.
Alright, so how is he gonna, okay, they made his whole career and he's, okay. Wow.
What does that have to do with anything?
The fact that they made him popular and he's new,
Women and men were radically different to him by nature and should serve in different lifestyles. He thought men were better suited for the rough nature of politics, public life, and women just were not built for that kind of thing.
what you mean built for it?
Like they're little dainty flowers that can't handle the weariness of politics and knowledge.
What does he mean by public life? Like women should like have a social group and go into public.
Basically, they can't just like women should like basically go from point A inside to point B inside. They should not just be like meandering around the streets and well, basically like women should like be protected inside. Like if they're out in the streets and stuff, they might be like attacked or raped or whatever the case is, right? Because they're just so. Well, right, because of those unenlightened people, you got to protect them from, right? Women's roles were to attract the male to marry and create families, and then after that, care for the home. That's what Rousseau thinks.
So they're gonna make women do everything and then say that women aren't best fit for
That's what he's doing.
That's kind of
So,
backwards.
it's like you could write about why he's the greatest because of these
That's
ideas,
so
right?
backwards.
So women's roles were to attract the male to marry and create families, and that's pretty much it, and then take care of the home after that. He disliked women attending social gatherings
Boy,
But he was
literally. How you gonna
and
go
thought
to-
any influence they had on politics was unnatural.
Oh, you know. I know what happened. He went to a salon one day and he had a dumb idea. And they all laughed in his face. And he was like,
You know what? You're
ever
dumb.
since-
You're dumb.
Ever since.
So he thought any influence that women had on politics was unnatural. And some women supported his ideas. So there are some very conservative women who support his ideas that women have a very restrictive role in society. It's to serve the male in the household, and that's it.
Someone probably broke his heart.
Women
And he was
preach
like,
when you're
it's
20.
assaulting.
It's- hey, man.
I'm sorry. I'm politically came out.
I mean, who's with him, right? Come on, Rousseau, yeah.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Y'all get out of the class.
I'm not.
You got a chance to write about him.
Y'all go see
Next
how
week,
I
right?
physically fit.
I'll write about it. There's again like 15. I said there's going to be comments all over.
You better get ready to think yourself, so maybe we'll respond. You gotta-
I'm gonna take
Go
my
back.
nails.
All right, Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft, mother of Mary Shelley, vigorously rejected the notion of women's limitation. So Mary Wollstonecraft was somebody who vigorously rejected the notion of women's limitations.
I bet she could beat him up.
She probably could. Half these women probably better built than him.
Y'all thought he looked handsome. Y'all thought he
I
looked...
did not say that.
Somebody said
That
that.
was Mimi.
That was me.
Oh, okay, Mimi.
Wow.
Me.
All right. On that note.